My stepfather tried to stop me from going to university because he didn't want me to outshine his son. My mother took his side. Now they're demanding I hand over the money I earned on my own. Hello, Reddit I, plus here. The hardest part wasn't losing my mother. It was realizing she had already chosen someone else years before I ever packed my bags. I'm a 22-year-old man now, and I haven't spoken to my mother or her husband in almost 2 years. Recently, they contacted me demanding that I return the family money because they're struggling financially. The money they're talking about? It's mine. My late father saved it before he died. Now everyone in the family says I'm selfish for refusing to hand it over. So here I am, wondering if I'm crazy or if everyone around me has completely lost their minds. For some background, my dad died when I was 11 after a long battle with cancer. Before he passed away, he planned everything. He had life insurance, investments, and most importantly, an education trust with enough money to pay for whatever university I could get into. He always told me education was the one thing nobody could ever steal from me. I took those words seriously. After he died, my mother fell apart. I understood that. Losing him devastated both of us. 3 years later, she married another man named Grant. Grant came with baggage, specifically a 16-year-old son named Mason. Grant constantly pushed the idea that we were one happy family. Except that only worked when everyone revolved around Mason. If Mason wanted pizza, we had pizza. If Mason wanted the television, everyone else found something else to do. If Mason broke something, it was an accident. If I forgot to wash one plate, I was disrespectful. It wasn't subtle. Grant worshipped his son. My mother slowly started doing the same. Meanwhile, I stayed out of everyone's way. I buried myself in school. I joined debate, science competitions, volunteer work, student government. I barely slept for almost 3 years because my dream was getting into one of the best engineering schools in the country. Every test mattered, every grade mattered, every scholarship application mattered. While I was doing that, Mason spent most afternoons playing video games, skipping classes, getting suspended twice, and talking about becoming rich through online gambling. Grant called him a free spirit. I called him unemployed. Nobody appreciated my honesty. The day my acceptance letter arrived remains one of the happiest days of my life. I actually screamed. I had earned admission into one of the most competitive universities in the country with partial academic scholarships. When I showed my mother, she hugged me so tightly, I almost cried. For about 30 seconds. Then Grant walked into the room. He asked what everyone was celebrating. My mother handed him the letter. His smile disappeared immediately. He reread it, looked at me, then looked at my mother. The atmosphere changed so quickly, it felt like someone had switched off the oxygen. Grant forced a smile, and then, "That's impressive." Then came the questions. "When did you apply? Who helped you? How much will this cost?" I answered honestly, "I've got scholarships, and Dad's education trust covers everything else." Grant's eyes narrowed. Oh, that one word told me everything. The next morning, my mother knocked on my bedroom door. She sat on the edge of my bed looking nervous. She suggested maybe I should attend the local community college instead. I laughed because I honestly thought she was joking. She wasn't. I asked why she kept saying she didn't want me living so far away. I reminded her the university was only 4 hours from home. She kept repeating the same excuse. Finally, I asked what was really going on. She started crying, then admitted the truth. Grant believed it would humiliate Mason if I attended an elite university while his son enrolled in community college after barely graduating high school. I stared at her. Surely this was a joke. It wasn't. Grant walked into my room without knocking. Apparently, he'd been listening outside. He sat down like he was conducting a business meeting. He explained that parents had to treat children equally. He said it would create resentment if one son attended a prestigious university while the other attended community college. I asked one question. "So your solution is to punish the kid who actually worked for it?" Grant frowned. "No, we're asking you to sacrifice for your brother." Brother. That word nearly made me laugh. Mason and I weren't brothers. We were two strangers forced into the same house. Grant continued. "You can always apply again next year. Mason just needs time to figure himself out." I asked how my future had anything to do with his son's laziness. Grant exploded. He accused me of insulting Mason. Mason wandered into the room wearing pajamas at noon and immediately started yelling too. He claimed I always acted superior. I reminded him I'd spent 3 years studying while he'd spent 3 years sleeping until lunchtime. He lunged toward me. Grant grabbed me by the shirt. For 1 second, I honestly thought he was going to hit me. Instead, he shoved me backward into the wall. I told him very calmly that if he ever laid another hand on me, I'd report him. Grant immediately let go. See, Grant wasn't exactly the model citizen he pretended to be. Let's just say he had some business dealings that probably wouldn't survive police attention. He understood my warning. Then he made his own. If you insist on going, don't expect a penny from this family. I smiled. It isn't your money, he smiled back. It's under your mother's control. That's when I realized what they had been planning. They intended to keep my father's education fund unless I obeyed. That night, my mother came into my room alone. I hoped she'd finally defend me. Instead, she begged me to compromise because Grant was threatening divorce. She actually asked whether attending my dream school was worth destroying her marriage. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I asked if she remembered who created that education fund. My father. I asked whose dying wish it had been. My father. I asked why she was choosing another man's son's feelings over her own child's future. She had no answer. Finally, she gave me an ultimatum. Stay home, attend community college, support the family, or leave forever. I didn't hesitate. I said she should be the one making a choice. Me or Grant. She looked away, silence. That silence answered everything. The following week, they refused to release my education trust. Fortunately, my father had anticipated something like this. His attorney was still handling the estate. One phone call changed everything. Within 48 hours, Grant and my mother were sitting in a lawyer's office, being reminded that the trust legally belonged to me. Their signatures were mandatory, their opinions were not. Watching Grant realize he'd lost was one of the most satisfying moments of my life. He looked like someone had stolen Christmas. I collected every document, transferred the funds into an account under my control, packed 2 suitcases, left. Neither of them came outside to say goodbye. My mother watched through the living room window. That was the last time I saw her. University wasn't easy. People think getting accepted is the hard part. It isn't. Staying there is. I worked part-time, pulled all-nighters, lived on instant noodles more times than I care to admit, but every difficult day reminded me why I'd left. I graduated near the top of my class this spring. Before graduation, I'd already accepted an engineering position with a company that pays more in 1 year than Grant had earned in 5. I bought a modest condo, started investing. Life was finally peaceful. Then 3 weeks ago, my phone rang. It was my aunt. Apparently, Grant had invested most of his retirement savings into one of Mason's can't-fail cryptocurrency businesses. Predictably, it failed. Mason had also accumulated tens of thousands in gambling debt. Collectors were showing up at the house. Grant had taken out loans trying to rescue him. Those loans buried them. Now they were desperate. My mother wanted to reconcile. I agreed to meet her in a public cafe. She cried before she even sat down. She apologized for everything, said she missed me, said family should forgive each other. I almost believed her. Then she reached into her purse. She pulled out paperwork, loan applications. She asked if I could temporarily lend them $180,000. She said my father would have wanted me to help family. I laughed, actually laughed. Then I reminded her that the last time my father tried to help me, she tried to steal his money. She didn't appreciate that. She insisted she was protecting her marriage. I asked how that had worked out. She started crying again. People stared. I stood up. Before leaving, I said something I'd been holding inside for years. My father spent years making sure I'd have opportunities after he was gone. You spent years trying to take those opportunities away. You didn't lose me because of Grant. You lost me because every single time you had to choose, you never chose your own son. Then I walked away. Since then, relatives have been calling nonstop. Apparently, I'm cruel, heartless, vindictive. According to them, successful people should help struggling family. Funny. None of those same relatives spoke up when they were trying to destroy my future. Not one. Last week, I heard through another cousin that Grant blames me for everything. He says if I just attended community college like they wanted, none of this would have happened because the family would have stayed together. That's probably the funniest thing I've ever heard. They tried to sacrifice my future to protect a lazy man from feeling insecure. Instead, they destroyed their own family. Meanwhile, the money my father fought so hard to leave me did exactly what he intended. It gave me a future nobody could take away, including the people who tried the hardest.